Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? So it wasn't too long ago that it was just reported the IBF stripped Terence Crawford of his belt. And now they have elevated Jaron Ennis as the full champion in the welterweight division. Even though Terence Crawford, he only held the belt for about 3 months. Now, according to the IBF, they don't recognize rematch clauses, and they're saying that Errol Spence had been champion for so long without fighting his mandatory. So this is the thing. That would make complete sense if the IBF was completely consistent. And they haven't been consistent because we know that there have been many champions holding the IBF belt that held the belts for over a year and was never stripped. Just for example, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the IBF and when it comes to mandatories, I think about how long Errol Spence was Kell Brook's mandatory. But I actually have a better example than that. Canelo Alvarez has a mandatory. A fighter by the name of William Sco, he's an undefeated Cuban fighter, 21-0. He became Canelo Alvarez's IBF mandatory in July of last year. There was an article that was written about William Sco approximately a year ago, and it was titled, "William Sco Takes Stay Busy Fight." Now, I want to just read a little bit of what it says in the article. It says, Sco is the IBF mandatory challenger, a position he reached after beating Evgeny Shevchenko in July. However, when IBF champion Saul Canelo Alvarez is ready to fight his mandatory challenger is an open question, and it's not likely that the IBF will push very hard for this fight to happen. Now, once again, this article, it was written in November of 2022. And now it seems like William Sco has completely given up on getting the title shot that he deserves, that he put himself in position to fight for against the IBF champion Canelo Alvarez. It's unfortunate when it comes to that point where a fighter, he just knows because of the politics and the corruption that's involved in the sport, he will never get that shot as long as Canelo Alvarez is holding the belt. Now, there was a very good chance that Terence Crawford, he was going to move up to 154 and vacate his belts, just like he moved up to 147 after he became the undisputed champion at 140. But that still does not justify the double standards when it comes to the way the IBF is moving. When you look at the examples that I just used, and that's just one example, there could be many examples that we can use. When you look at them, it makes no sense that Terence Crawford was stripped only after 3 months of holding the IBF title. And before I end this video, let me just show you how bad it is when it comes to old media contradicting themselves, when it comes to this whole undisputed narrative. Now, just remember, guys, before Devin Haney, Jermell Charlo, and Terence Crawford became undisputed, when it was only Canelo Alvarez, old media, they kept saying Canelo Alvarez should be considered the best fighter pound for pound over Terence Crawford because he became undisputed and he did it all in 1 year. And just in case you guys didn't know, to refresh your memory, when Alexander Usyk was still fighting at cruiserweight, despite the fact that nobody knew any of the names of the fighters that he beat, soon as he became undisputed in the weakest, one of the weakest divisions in the sport, they elevated him to top 5 pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world. Meanwhile, when Devin Haney became undisputed, there was a time when ESPN didn't even have him on the list, and then they didn't have Jermell Charlo on the list at all when he was considered undisputed. Because of this, a lot of members from old media, like Mike Coppinger, he caught a lot of hell on social media because he got a lot of backlash from real boxing fans that were contacting him directly on Twitter. So now that Terence Crawford gets stripped of his IBF title, ESPN's Mike Coppinger, he's using this moment as an opportunity to respond to all the fans that were exposing him on Twitter. He's now saying, see, the fact that Terence Crawford got stripped, this proves that just because you become undisputed doesn't mean you're supposed to be bumped up the pound for pound list. But once again, he never said this when fighters on the hope list like Alexander Usyk and Canelo Alvarez were elevated because of their undisputed status.
Now, Bruce Ennis elevated and Crawford is no longer the undisputed champion. And that's why you always hear about, oh, we have to go for undisputed. If you're undisputed, you should be pushed up the pound for pound list. I say nonsense. Because Josh Taylor won undisputed and he was stripped of all of his titles but one, and now the same thing's happening to Crawford.
Now, if you pay very close attention to what he said right there, One thing has nothing to do with the other. Once again, he's trying to justify why fighters like Devin Haney and Jamel Charlo were not on the ESPN pound-for-pound list, or they weren't bumped up on the pound-for-pound list. Then he uses Josh Taylor as an example, as to suggest that he was treated just like Devin Haney and Jamel Charlo when he was undisputed. But it's the contrary. Because when Josh Taylor was undisputed, he was put on Old Media's pound-for-pound list right away. And once again, it was solely because he became undisputed. So it makes absolutely no sense for Mike Coppinger to now say you shouldn't be elevated on the pound-for-pound list just because you become undisputed. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this video up, but I'm going to go ahead and play the clip of what Tim Bradley said in response to Mike Coppinger justifying Terence Crawford being stripped by the IBF.
So the question that I would have for the IBF is that, well, we've had Jamel Charlo, actually sitting for about a year and a half without defending his world championship or IBF world championship, and that was okay. I don't get that. Please make me understand that, Cop. Why is it okay for some and not the others? I don't get it. You just had Canelo Alvarez. He ain't defended. He ain't had no mandatory defenses. He faced Ryder and he faced Jamel Charlo, who I'm speaking of right now, or Jamal. I forget their names and which one is which. So I think it's Mel Charlo. I'm gonna say Mel. Yeah, Mel Charlo. And he ain't
Mel's 54.
But now
60.
you have, and then check this out. Then you have Earl Spence that been out for over a year and a half. He holds in down 3 belts, including the IBF, and he doesn't get stripped. But Terence holds the belt for what, 6 months, if that? 4 months?
3.
I don't know how long it's been since the last fight. I haven't checked it out. And he's getting stripped? Are you kidding me? And there was never a mandatory defense for Earl Spence to face one of these guys, including Boots Ennis? Man, they need to stop playing, man. Be fair across the board. I understand that these sanctioning bodies, I get it. I get what you guys are trying to do. But be strict and be across the board. Not just have a selective few where you're saying, well, nah, we going to strip him. But he's fine. He's fine because he's making us more money or whatever it is, man. Oh, we owe this person, the pleasure to be ahead and just let him hold the title. That's wrong, my friends. That's the only problem that I have. But yes, you are right, Cop. I'll give you this. Boots is well deserving of the championship. And if Crawford wasn't willing to face him, I understand why they had.
All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called LO Decay Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to lodecay.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.